Hi, friends. Welcome back. So, question for you. If you could be the richest person in the world, but have no real friends, have family members that hate you, have to constantly lie all the time, owe people billions of dollars, and you're constantly living in fear, would it be worth it? However, you are the richest person in the world, and I'm sure you understand we're talking about the life of Elon Musk. And this is actually really fascinating because there's a story that just came out today, and I want to go over a couple different things with you guys, and especially for young people out there who idolize this guy. I want you to understand like how complicated this kind of stuff is. Read the headline here. It says, "Inside Elon Musk's mushrooming security apparatus." Basically, he can't live a normal life, and don't think that every billionaire out there is like that. It's just not. This is a real thing. Warren Buffett. He's very, very rich, but he has like one bodyguard. Jack Dorsey, who used to own Twitter, as described in the story, he could just walk across San Francisco, right? No problem. No one's going to bother him. But Mr. Musk, he has to have bodyguards wherever he goes because he's constantly under fear. It's interesting because you read this, and we'll go over it together here, and I want to hear your thoughts. It says, "The threats to his security," it's called Mr. Musk again, "have led Mr. Musk to become more fearful and his lifestyle more isolated," three people close to him said. "He is rarely without bodyguards, even when he went to the bathroom at X, his social media company." And just think about this for a moment. You go to your job, you go to your work, and imagine if you had to have bodyguards just to go to the bathroom. Just think about that for a minute. That would be awful. I mean, just to go to the bathroom, right? So that means you basically have to be there all the time. Also says here, that was in a 2023 lawsuit filed by former employees over severance pay, right? At times, he has overstated the severity of threats, including once inaccurately saying two people indicated in separate incidents had carried guns. Now, I want to break this particular part down of the article because you have to think about what's going on here. So one is the threat, meaning that, hey, bodyguards come with me to the bathroom, is that real or not? Let's say it's not real, okay? That means you have a loss of paranoia, and since you want your bodyguards to protect you from things that aren't real. Let's say it is real, right? Both scenarios aren't good. That means you have a whole bunch of people that want to hurt you. Why would people want to hurt Mr. Musk? So as you can see here, it's over severance pay. If you understand, and we've been following the story for a while, he cheats a lot of people, a lot of his workers, basically doesn't pay them and looks for ways to not pay people. And I'm sure you guys understand this if you have a job. Just imagine at your work and, you worked, we'll say 10 years, 30 years, whatever, and you find out at the end, they didn't pay you what you felt that you were owed or what was in your contract. You're not going to be happy about that, right? And there's any number of things like, just for example, for an average person, you just literally call them up every day, like, "Where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money?" And sometimes like they don't, respond. And let's say there's an emergency in your life, and then you're like, "Okay, fine. I have to go, to the office and just say, 'Hey, where's my money? Where's my money?'" And if anyone who's been in these situations, I'm sure you understand. Now imagine, and you're just one person in this situation, imagine that suddenly this becomes 100 people or 1,000 people, or, who knows how many people this guy affects. But this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. And I'll give you another example here. And we talk about a lot of stuff that he does. This is actually just 5 minutes ago, he tweets out, "You bring me the man, I'll find you the crimes." It's like tweeting out, and this is from a quote from the chief of Soviet secret police under Stalin. Like, wait, what? This is the kind of things that he's thinking about, right? This is the stuff that Musk thinks about. Or this is back, and that was just 5 minutes ago. This is back in 2022. Musk is tweeting out here, May 9th, 2022. "If I die under mysterious circumstances, it's been nice knowing you." And it's interesting because the kind of more you're exposed to someone, the more they tell you who they are, like what they think about. So for me, it's pretty obvious that Musk is the biggest fraud in history. And I always wonder, like, how long can this thing keep going? I always show you guys this because some people haven't seen it. The emperor has no clothes, right? This is what he looks like when he's out partying in his yachts, and Mr. Twitter Fingers is tweeting out all sorts of crazy stuff all the time. But people idolize this stuff. But for me, not being able to go to the bathroom, not being able to enjoy a music concert, the article describes, he goes to Burning Man, which is I think is that Nevada or Arizona? I can't remember where that thing is, or is it? No, I think it's in California, like the eastern part. But if you don't know, it's basically a bunch of hippies out there, and they do substances and party and stuff like that. But he can't even enjoy that kind of stuff if that's what you're into, because he's always constantly worried about security. They describe he's got like a 20 person security team, and they have to clear every room and make sure everything's okay. They got to fly drones overhead, make sure no one's out to hurt him, etc. And he's got these bodyguards, which the bodyguard thing, I don't think that's so unusual. But the issue is that you have to go well beyond that. And the article comes out because they have to disclose basically how much you're spending on security, which is quite a bit. Now, what's interesting though is that he's not alone into lots of security. The other person that's mentioned in the article is actually Mark Zuckerberg, who has to spend a ton of money on security too. These kind of social media people, I think, in my personal opinion, now that I've we've been seeing this stuff play out live, that's probably the last business I want to be in. To be just perfectly frank, there's this too much information coming through essentially your, I can say, jurisdiction, if you want to call it that, or through your platform, through your business all the time, and you have to manage misinformation, disinformation, all kinds of stuff, right? If let's say someone scams someone else on your platform, are you responsible or not, right? And there's a legal responsibility, there's an ethical responsibility, and then there's a moral responsibility, these kind of things. And I'll let you guys be the judge of that kind of stuff, but the thing is, it's like I think about this more. I'll give you another example, and there's so many examples that talk about this stuff. But again, I like to have these conversations with you, especially for young people who, again, idolize this guy and think, the only thing that life is important is rich. Some people think that way. But that's why I pose the question to you is like, say you could be the richest person in the world, but you don't have any real friends. Or, for example, we showed a video the other day where there's one of his, Muscovites or, disciples, or want to say it, were crying that, why is people all so unfair to Mr. Musk? He works so hard. like what I mean by that is just imagine this situation to where, you have to constantly make people these bold promises that aren't true. And then you have to convince people to go along with it. And then you don't pay people who do go along with it. So for example, this is an example here. It says, Elon Musk says X staff can get their stock if they prove they deserve it. And if you remember the story, he tells the staff you have to write a 1-page letter of why you deserve your stock options, and for me to be like, hey, it's in my contract, that's why I deserve said thing. And then for example, maybe he's not paying people because, he keeps breaking his promises. Like, for example, this just came out and I want to pay a full picture of this stuff. And, I know sometimes we go to detail, but every now and then something surfaces, like say the bodyguard situation where you can't even go to the bathroom and enjoy your life. It's because you're making these kind of promises. For example, this just came out, was this a week ago? Elon Musk predicts crewed SpaceX flights to Mars by 2028, hopes for self-sustaining city on the planet, right? Talking about, I guess we're going to have a city on Mars by 2044, we're self-sustaining, right? And what happens if this, prediction doesn't come to fruition, right? Or what happens if, you promise people a whole bunch of robots, right? Elon Musk claims Optimus robots could make a Tesla a 25 trillion company, right? So it's more than half the value of the S&P. What happens? What happens if you promise a whole bunch of people, you're gonna have robo-taxis, robots, bases on Mars? It keeps getting crazier and crazier. But when we put this all together, and this is sort of why I go back to is it worth it? You're the richest person in the world, but you constantly have to lie. You can't even go to the bathroom in privacy. You got to bring your bodyguards with you. Be it, like I said, be it paranoia or be it real safety concerns. Because remember, you're also cheating your employees. And then yes, you have a loyal disciples that keep pumping you up, etc. But that you create this sort of, how can I say, is it a bipolar world? Is that a good way to describe it? Maybe half the world hates you and the other half likes you. Who knows? But the people that like you don't really like you for you. They like you for the promises that you make that aren't true, or they just like you because you're rich. And I want to go back to this point, because oftentimes people say, oh, Chris, you're so dumb. Why aren't you a billionaire? You're just so stupid. Musk is a billionaire, therefore he's awesome. And I always reply the same thing. Guys, he was born rich. Born rich is very different circumstances, right? Not everyone is born rich. Not everyone is born with parents who have an emerald mind, right? And I have to explain that to you. It's or another example. Not everyone is born in a country where, say, South Africa apartheid, where say you're born on the white side. But imagine if you're born on the black side, you don't get the same opportunities that someone like a Mr. Musk has. And I mention it all the time, but I understand if people have never been in these places, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But Musk and I went to the same school. We're about the same age. And why do I mention that is because when I got to university for the first time, I saw real wealth, real wealth. I went to school with the Rockefellers. I went to school with, the granddaughter of the person who owns Wynn, right? That's the hotel chain in Vegas. I saw all kinds of crazy stuff. I actually write about this stuff in my book. And I'll just be honest, like most people don't have these kind of experiences. I completely understand. That's why I write about it and try to explain to you every day on the channel, because I know most people have no idea what I'm talking about. And until you see, like, you say, for example, you as a regular person, you go to class, you come home, and then you find out your neighbor down the hallway has a limo to pick them up to take, him and his girlfriend out to dinner. You're just like, huh, these people have really different lives than you, right? But you know them personally, like, wow, they're not that smart. That they hang out in their dorm room all day and do substances, like stuff like that. But yet, like, how are they getting limos and things? Like you start to understand that the world isn't fair, and that's fine, right? That's part of the world is. But I don't worship people who are run around in limos, right? Or I don't worship people who have no friends. It's not something that I want to aspire to. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have wealth, right? I as I talk about so many times on the channel, we talk about money, but there's certain things that are worth it and there's certain things that are not. I'll give you a simple example. So let's say I could triple your salary today, okay? Or let's say, I could give you the best stock picks and suddenly, you could 10x your money by tomorrow, whatever. But the cost would be you could never see your family for, we'll say, 10 years, right? Or the cost would be, really, really high interest, and there's a 5% chance you could lose everything and go, well into the hole. The point is, I'm saying that there's always a trade-off, right, on these kind of things. And there's another article that came out today too as well, which is really interesting. This was the headline here again, September 13th, 2024. The illegal maneuvers the rich use to get richer. This is stuff that I know about, and I know people who engage in this kind of stuff, but I'll just say, it's not necessarily the world that you want to be a part of. And let me read some description of this thing. It's really fascinating and true story. I have a friend who's a fixer. There's no other way to describe it, because when I met my friend for the first time, I was like, what's your job? And he's like, I'm personal advisor to high net worth people. Right? And like, what does that mean? It's basically, he's a fixer. So fixer is like a person who, just for example, let's say you're a wealthy individual and you get someone pregnant, and now you got an illegitimate child that you have to take care of, but you have to take care of it privately. That's where your fixer comes in, that kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff that I don't want to mess with. And I'll be further frank, my wife would kill me. So there's that. And that goes back to, there's some things that aren't worth it. Worth it for my wife to hate me the rest of my life, to do certain things. No, it's just not worth it. But let me read this stuff, descriptions, to get other people's types of descriptions. Some high net worth individuals didn't come by their money legitimately to begin with, so they need to find a way to launder it. And a lot of times the laundering takes the form of most legitimate activities, like buying real estate. It's kind of funny because there's a particular YouTuber that, is into real estate. I'm not going to mention names, but who knows what people are doing up these days, right? Barhoma added that legitimate businesses, including restaurants and real estate enterprises, are typically used to mask origins of, quote, dirty funds. And this is something that I see quite a bit. I always wonder, here we live in Busan, guys, there's always a cafe opening and closing, it seems like every 6 months. And every time I walk by one of these things, I always tell my wife, I bet you it's money laundering. Now, she doesn't think so, but we have no way to know one way or the other. But I always wonder, like, why would you open a business that's insured to fail? It's probably, in my opinion, money laundering, because, in the area that we live in, there's like 40 cafes. And it's like, does really someone think they're going to open up yet another cafe, number 41? Think they're going to be successful, and lo and behold, it closed down, and like 6 months later. So I think there's a lot of laundering going on. And then it also says here, an example of how easily this can be when a wealthy art dealer buys expensive paintings with dirty money, sells them at a legitimate auction, and voila, the money is now clean. So the article describes all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's stuff that I know about. I mean, be it tax shelters and shell companies and any number of things. But I think one of the things that sort of frustrates me about the world, again, is people who have sort of this overemphasis on wealth, but wealth in a way that's so egregious, driving the Lambos, that kind of stuff. And my opinion, and this is sort of why I want to chat with you guys about this, is that, guys, there is some truth to having money gives you a sense of security. You're not worried about your future all the time, right? You can live stress-free. You can go wherever you want, buy whatever you want, right? That kind of stuff. That thing's real, right? Take care of your family. But there comes a point to where, like, how much is enough? So this particular gentleman, Elon Musk, he's worth what, 250 billion? I mean, something like that. But a lot of that is paper money, because it's in stock and stock options, and he has to take out loans, constantly borrowing money, using that other stuff as collateral, and then to keep your net worth elevated, you have to keep pumping up and telling lies. And then you get into this like weird, and if you want to just call it flat out creepy, that's fine also. And I mentioned this before, this is the Taylor Swift comment. He said, "Fine, Taylor, you win. I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life." And I mean, how do you read this kind of stuff? The problem is like, if you understand the history of Musk, so I'll give you an example here, and I'm going to find it. I'm not going to tell you, but it's just always good to show stuff, because people, it's so much to keep track of. At SpaceX, there's been reports he's like a culture of harassment. There was an employee that was saying before that, like, Musk walks around the office, I guess, and asks people to have his babies, that kind of stuff. Like, just imagine, guys, at your work, could you do that to a fellow worker? I mean, let's be real. You can't. There's certain things that you just don't do. Not only can you not do it, you shouldn't do it. Moreover, you got issues of like, the dude is always, constantly now getting in politics, and you kind of wonder, like, what's he talking about now? Now, I'll give you an example. This just came out just a few minutes ago also from him, from Musk. Starship will make multiplanetary preserving life as preserving life as, that's actually the language. Starship will make multiplanetary preserving life as no from extinction events on Earth, so long as it is not smothered by bureaucracy. There is more government regulation smothering every year. If this continues, all large projects in the United States will be illegal. For example, look at the farcical slow build of the high-speed rail in California. After several $1 billion over the years, there is almost no progress. And he says here, the Department of Government Efficiency is the only path to extending life beyond Earth. And so, like, why is this guy, always concerned about getting rid of government, getting rid of bureaucracy, et cetera? Is because, I'll just put it in simple terms, he doesn't want people calling him on his BS, right? For an average person, and I don't know, honestly, I don't know how long this can go. If I, am part of a publicly traded company, that, SpaceX is private in this situation, but how often can a CEO come out and make public statements that just simply are not true, promising products that never materialize, that kind of thing? And this is sort of why, like, when we go into the Robotaxi event, right? So it's going to be at Hollywood, at Warner Brothers Studio, and they're going to be like this thing driving around, and they're going to promise it's going to make you lots and lots of money. I mean, this kind of stuff, how long can it go on? And, for those of you who work with the guy, is it worth it? That's the question I pose. Me, myself, I like to go to the bathroom and not have bodyguards with me. That's my opinion on that, and I'm sticking to it. So I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on this thing. That I'd love to hear your thoughts, really. And I think it's something that people don't talk enough about. Guys, I'm all about you securing wealth. I have no problem with that, but I think there's certain things where it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Be it breaking the law, or be it constantly cheating people or lying. It's just not worth it. So I think it's an important discussion, and we're actually witnessing this stuff live as it occurs. I have not seen anything like this in my lifetime, not in this scale. So anyway, please share your thoughts on this one, and I'll catch you next video.